Welcome to the Happiness Podcast. I'm Dr. Sanam. Have you ever scrolled through your phone, seen a headline or video, and felt a sudden hot flash of anger? It got you so riled up you wanted to comment, share it, or argue. If you have, like many of us have, did you know you were actually a victim of rage bait, which in 2025 is Oxford's Dictionary Word of the Year? Seriously, the definition of rage bait is, it is content engineered not to inform you but to provoke you. We see it all the time now on social media. And if the comment feed is live, it can be incredibly intense. It's all about algorithms prioritizing engagement. What I mean by that is, if someone posts something and they get a like, that's 1 point of engagement, but an angry comment war is 100 points. The system, or whatever medium platform you're on, is designed to make you feel mad and show you more of it because it works. For example, let's say your friend is on vacation and they go to Paris and they visit the Louvre and they post a picture of themselves in front of the Mona Lisa. It's a nice picture. You'll like it and their friends will too. All is well. But some people like lots of views, and the algorithm for the platforms like lots of engagement. So posting something or creating posts that get you upset, that get you mad, that get you engaged, those are the ones get a lot of action, a lot of traction, because it's called rage bait. And it works. Sadly, I want to next talk about the biological cost of this cortisol cocktail. It's all about fight and flight. When we see rage bait, our brains, particularly amygdala, perceives a threat. It dumps cortisone and adrenaline into our system. And strangely, anger can be addictive. For a moment, it does give us a sense of moral superiority and energy. How dare that person do such and such? They're a disgusting, horrible human being. I'm going to let the world know my thoughts on this. And even if I don't, I'm going to find out everything I can about them and hate them. But when the dust settles, it leaves us drained, anxious, and less compassionate. Because often these rage baits aren't about truth. They're about getting you upset and angry. But even when they're based on truth, the people that create these scour the world looking for the most upsetting, anger-producing videos they can find. And with over 8 billion people on the planet, they can find very disturbing videos. And remember, whichever platform you're watching on, it's going to pay attention to what gets you riled up, what sends you into a rage, and it's going to feed you far more of these contents. Have you ever heard the phrase, drinking poison and expecting the other person to die? See, consuming rage bait hurts your body and your peace, not the content creator. They are purposely creating content not to inform you, but to provoke you. This is rage bait. There's also the concept of puppet master. That's where someone is being controlled by someone else. They're pulling the strings, and they get a reaction from that person by pulling their strings. It's much about this with rage bait, and it happens all the time. We're sitting waiting for a friend to show up, just relaxing, and we think, let's get on my phone, let's see what's happening in the world. We go to one of our favorite apps, and we start looking. Some are interesting, some we don't really care about. And then we go to the next one, and then finally, we get one that piques our attention. Not only that, it gets us upset and we want to learn more. So, we spend time on that post, we look at it, we examine it, and the feelings start rising. The feelings of rage. But the truth is, a stranger that you don't know has created a piece of content to push a button in your brain, and then you obey that button. You become a puppet to the content creator. Is that really what you want to do in life? Let other people create rage and anger in you, where you are having a good, peaceful day. In our vast, interconnected world, they can find things that will disturb you, and if they can't find things, they can now create things that aren't even based on truth. We see it so often now in the media where things have been changed, manipulated for the benefit of the observer. The creator of this content wants people to be enraged, even if at times they have to change the narrative or sometimes even lie. But we pay the price for this engagement because we're just not wired to be neutral observers. When we see things that are disturbing, it will disturb us. I did my residency at the VA hospital many years ago, and the men and women that I work with had horrible images in their heads of things they'd seen at war. I could only imagine what they saw, but sadly and tragically, in today's age, an 8-year-old on a video can see the exact same thing that these adult men and women saw in the combat of war. The first time I ever got exposed to this, it was years ago, and it was shocking. Again, it was at the VA hospital, and for training purposes, I was listening to an audio recording of the trauma and treatment of sexual assault. I have no idea why this creator of this audio program decided to include this, but they decided to include a 911 call of a woman being assaulted by a stranger who had come into her home. And it was a real recording of what happened to her. It was incredibly disturbing for me. I remember having to talk to my supervisor about it because it really disturbed me. But sadly, nowadays, there isn't much that we can't find on the internet, and it impacts us greatly. But like so many other addictions that we can struggle with, this addiction too, even though we know it's hurting us and causing us to get upset, we still watch, we still listen, we still engage. Rage bait. We're letting other people treat us like puppets, and the puppeteering they're doing is hurting us. There's a very wise quote by a Stoic philosopher named Epictetus. He wrote, "If a person gave away your body to some passerby, you'd be furious. Yet you hand over your mind to anyone who comes along so that they may abuse you, leaving it disturbed and troubled. Have you no shame in that?" He shared this wisdom 2,000 years ago, and in today's modern age, I think the challenges we have with other people pulling us in and disturbing our peace is 10, perhaps 100 times more powerful. So how do we stop this rage bait trap, this rage bait addiction? The first thing we have to do is realize that the system is set up to get us engaged in watching videos. It wants us to look, it wants us to engage. It doesn't care if it's a good engagement where we leave feeling peaceful and happy, or if we leave enraged or infuriated. It just doesn't care, it just wants engagement. So, whatever we watch is telling us what is pulling us in, and we have to ask ourselves, am I being pulled in with the puppet strings to watch things that are disturbing my inner peace? And if we are, we need to change that behavior because it's hurting us. We can't stop people from creating content, but we can choose what we engage with. We can start by creating cognitive distancing. This technique includes labeling. When you see something upsetting, say out loud, or if you're in a large group, say in your head, "This is rage bait." I remember when I was listening that audio at the VA hospital years ago. The second I figured out what was being done and what was being recorded, I turned it immediately off. Immediately. I definitely got disturbed by what I heard. But the second I realized it was disturbing, I turned it off. The Oxford English Dictionary hadn't created the word race bait yet. That happened in 2025. But it's a good word to use. Now, when we name something, we break its spell by identifying it as a marketing technique rather than news. We detach from it. Humans have been around for a very long time. There's always wicked, nefarious acts that people do towards each other. But thankfully, throughout history, we didn't know about them. We don't have to see images of them. But nowadays, these creators scour the world finding things that are disturbing, and they show it to us. We don't have to watch. And now, sadly, they even create false images, and we don't have to watch them either. They're not good for our soul. So the main technique that we can apply after we call it rage bait is the scroll-on strategy. The greatest rebellion against rage bait is indifference. Don't comment, don't share, just scroll on. This is how we win the game. And the good news is, when we do this, we stop getting these types of videos or headlines in our feed because we don't find them interesting. We just are indifferent. And the system is set up to get us engaged. So when we get engaged with things that are uplifting, positive, supportive, that's what we're going to get in our feed. It can almost be an indication for us of how we're doing spiritually and psychologically. What's in our feed? Because the content creators, they don't have any power to get in our feed. That's done by the overarching system. Normally AI as we know, but AI is based on what we watch, what we engage with. It just wants us engaged. It doesn't care what we engage with. So, if our feed has very uplifting positive videos, we know we're probably in a pretty good mindset. If our feed has rage bait type videos, then we know that these content creators are winning. And the main thing I teach here on the Happiness Podcast is that why choice we make. Everything that we expose ourselves to, every thought that we have matters. So people that are having beautiful, peaceful, loving lives are exposing themselves to that type of media. We cannot get engaged with these rage baits and not be affected by it. It's going to affect our moment, our day, and sometimes even our lives. Everything we do matters. Ask ourselves, what's in my feed? And then ask ourselves, what am I spending time with? Am I scrolling on or am I engaged? Now, the engagement matters. If it's rage bait, it will make our lives not go as well. And here's the last thing I can share that I found that I hope you find helpful too, is that it's best not to look at all. It's like having a drink of alcohol. If you struggle with alcoholism, one drink leads to 2, leads to 3, leads to 4, and so on. One rage bait video or content leads to 2, leads to 3, leads to 4. And then a half an hour, or hours go by, and we're just not going to have a good day. It's going to impact us. And if we don't feel the impact of rage bait, then we're in a very difficult situation because now we become numb, and numbing is never good. It's like the alcoholic once they become an alcoholic. It is not good, but we can have beautiful lives. And hopefully today, with really understanding the nature and the destructive force of race bait on our souls, we'll be careful, we'll be engaged, and we'll scroll on. And with these skills in hand, we'll discover our days, our lives are beautiful. Thank you for joining me on the Happiness Podcast. If you'd like to learn more about the podcast, please go to www.happinesspodcast.org. That's happinesspodcast.org. Until next time, accept what is, love what is.